Bismillah, walhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Fadil and welcome back to the channel. So inshallah today I want to open by sharing a brief story. So it was coming near to the end of my shift in the last hour or so when I was on a sort of evening shift. This was a few weeks ago and it was time for Maghrib. So I would go to pray Maghrib, 5 to 10 minutes, between leaving the ward and coming back and so on. So while I'm there, about to pray Salah, and I notice a brother who comes in. I'm like, Akhi, let's pray Salah together. And then he looks and he's like, oh, I'm really busy, I have to hurry. And he's another sort of member of staff. He's not clinical, but he's another member of staff. So I'm like, okay, I'll read short surahs for you so we can pray together. And he's like, okay, no problem. So I read it with him, and then he quickly praises Sunnah and then quickly rushes off. The two Sunnah after Maghrib, of course. So then I just start reflecting about this sort of incidents. And again, this isn't a means of taking a position of almost hierarchy and being judgmental. That's not the case at all. It's just a matter of reflecting on that behavior and thinking how may I sort of exhibit that behavior but in a different manner, and of course the importance of Salah. So I wanted to share sort of 3 points. So the first and foremost is feeling that you don't have enough time for Salah, especially when it's during a working day and we have winter coming up, and winter in the UK is, as everybody knows, Salah is really compact together, with the exception of obviously Fajr and Isha. Dhuhr, Asr and Maghrib, all within a matter of a few hours. So Salah will become more difficult in that sense, especially while we're working. So if you ever feel like if you don't have enough time and so on, remember that, even if you're very busy, every single job in this country, of course it might be different in different countries, and then you may have to approach it differently, but we're entitled to a break. We're entitled to have time off. And when people are on their break, they're very, protective of it, and especially in the context of, the greater scheme of things, the only time where, you really are not going to manage to, have time is if you're leading a sort of life-saving scenario and it lasts for over an hour in winter, right? And the chances of that happening is very slim, because I remember when I first started working, a consultant was talking to me about a story of, like, it was really late and he started his shift very early. I said to him, how do you keep concentrating? Are you not tired? And he's like, Fadil, if you ever become a medical registrar, you'll learn how to work without eating, without sleeping, without anything. And then he told me a story of when it was Ramadan in summertime. Of course, the time between Maghrib and Fajr is very small depending on the timing you follow. But he followed the sort of 1:24 Fajr time, the very early one. So sort of Salah time came in, he had a few sips of water, and then he was called to multiple different emergencies back to back, which is not an unreasonable thing to do as a medical registrar. And he said he couldn't find time to even have iftar or food or Salah or anything. And as a naive person who's like in their second week of working, I just kind of thought, oh wow, that he must have been very busy. And I said it to my dad, who's been, he's a senior surgeon, mashallah, and he's been working in this country for decades. He's like, that's completely ridiculous. So it made me sort of rest assured that no matter how senior you become, you will always find time for Salah. That's number one. You're always going to find time no matter how busy you think you are. That's the first point. The second point is Salah is fard. Salah is what differentiates us between non-Muslims. And Salah is the first thing that will be asked about on Yawm al-Qiyamah. So the importance of Salah is such that some of the scholars say that if you leave your Salah out of laziness, then this is an act of kufr. And some of them are very sort of adamant about this, to the extent where if you have a family member who misses Salah and so on, then you can't attend their janazah and so on and so forth. So Salah is of utmost importance. And when something's fard, you have to put it in context. Allah sort of loves this act and has such a high importance of this act that He's made it compulsory. All the things that are compulsory, all the 5 aspects of the Shahada, of the 5 pillars of Islam, Shahada, Siyam in Ramadan, Hajj, Zakat and Salah. All of these things of course, you can talk about the nawafil associated with them and how you can do them very often, and how, you know, practicing the shahada is something that you need to doing all the time. But practically, in terms of physically doing something explicitly associated with the pillar of Islam, salah is the only one that's there every single day. And you have to really stick by it, and that's what really protects you. And it's a means of, it's from the wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that, you know, that He's made it fard upon us, and it's a means of protecting you from sin. It's a means of you being forgiven for sins. You know, when you pray a salah, between two salahs, all the minor sins of them are forgiven. So that's just one of the blessings of salah. And salah, the importance of it, you can literally write books about it. So I don't think I'll be doing it any justice by any means, but needless to say that salah isn't something that is just willy-nilly, oh, I'll pray it if I'll get time, I'll pray it if I, you know, if I feel like it or something. It's fard. It's what makes you Muslim, and it's what's going to take you to Jannah. Yeah. Depending on whether you follow the opinions of it leading you to kufr, that's a different topic. That's a whole topic that I'm not even qualified to really delve into. But it's important to understand that that opinion exists, and that opinion is, they have strong evidence for that as well. So why would you take that risk, you know? So the first point we covered was sort of time. The second point is the importance of salah. And the third point is that salah in and of itself is a reflection of your heart. Sheikh Abdul Razak al-Badr, he's one of the scholars based in Mecca. He has a really nice brief lecture about just looking at your heart. How can you judge how sound your heart is, how content your heart is, and it's your relationship with the salah. You know, do you dread the end of salah? Oh, I have to go now, I have to do wudu. Is it laboursome for you? You know, do you rush to go to it and then rush back, and then rush the salah as well? You know, is salah a means of your heart calming you down? You know, there's a story of the Prophet ﷺ, it's time for the salah, and he says to Bilal radiallahu an, أرحنا بالصلاة يا Bilal, you know, comfort us with the salah, call us the adhan, you know, call the adhan, and so we can pray salah, and so we can have peace and contentment. So that is really a sort of litmus test to see where we stand and how our relationships are with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And yeah, that's it. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.